Hi, my name is Nicole, and I am making this video to give you some information about a very specific type of hypnosis called QHHT, which stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. It was created by a woman named Dolores Cannon, and I won't go into too much detail about how or why she developed that because there's a lot of information on her website. So I'll let you Google Dolores Cannon if you want to get into the details of the history of the development of this process. But I'm just going to go over what the process is like and some of the benefits. So here we go. The process starts with a regular hypnosis technique, a common hypnosis technique that brings you into a deep trance state of mind, relaxes your body. And as with any hypnosis, you are never given any suggestions that you don't want to do. So I know a lot of people have seen the stage acts and think that you'll be forced to cluck like a chicken. And I can assure you that only if there's a part of you that's willing to go along with that. Generally, people are not, and this technique doesn't involve anything that is against your will anyway. Once you're in a deep state of trance, that can be different for different people. Some people go so deeply in that it's almost like their conscious mind is asleep and is unaware of what's happening. For that reason, the sessions are always recorded so that all the information is captured for you to be able to hear and review. It's difficult to remember all of it, even if you are more conscious during the process. But more commonly, people still have their conscious thinking mind is somewhat awake. It's a little bit relaxed, and we ask it to be on the back burner a bit. But you're just in a relaxed state of mind where your subconscious can bring things forward. And through later in the process, we will bring in a higher self that can also be channeled in that relaxed state. So after you go into a deep state of trance and we've relaxed the body and the body-mind connection, brought out the subconscious, then you'll be progressed into a past part of your life. It might be part of this life. It might be a past life. Some people do need to see a couple of things from their own current life in their childhood to kind of bring perspective and get answers. So your subconscious might choose to bring those forward. Other people just start right off with their past lives. And usually there's 1, 2, 3 or 4, depending on the time and how quickly and detailed each one of those is. During that state, there'll be a lot of information explored about where you are, what you're doing, what your life is like, and you see multiple scenes within that same life to kind of really get an idea of the full arc of what that life was like. And then I do bring people all the way through to the end of the life, which is their death scene. That may sound a little bit intense or scary, but I use hypnosis techniques to distance you so that if you need to, you can see that from a place of like a calm distance, almost like you're watching it on a screen rather than reliving it. But it is important to see the end of that life because sometimes, especially in a life when it ended unexpectedly and or traumatically, then some of those feelings, issues, even physical ailments can be brought through to the current life. And many, many times, if that is the case, just viewing the end of that life, sort of letting that replay and release will often release the impact that it's having on your current life. So for example, I've had clients who have had deaths where they've been hung or beheaded, those sorts of things, and had maybe a neck problem, a swallowing problem, neck pain, tension in the shoulders, those sorts of things that have been have had no real explanation in their current life why they're feeling that way. So watching that death scene all the way through to the end, realizing where it comes from, realizing that it belongs in the past, oftentimes just completely alleviates that issue in their current life. So that's one of the amazing benefits of doing the past life regression. And after doing a few and getting to a point where we really feel like we've kind of seen them all, or all the relevant ones, the most relevant ones for you in your current life, we can then go to a place that's called the between lives, where when we follow that person through the death scene, then they can continue to spend a little bit of time after the death and before they're reincarnated, and see their life from that perspective, where they're outside the body, they have a larger view, a larger understanding of the purpose of that life, the lessons of that life, the difficulties in that life. So we explore that a little bit in that between lives place. And that can also bring really great perspective on the whole lineage of the lives that we've seen in this session, and kind of maybe if something wasn't processed well in one life, we can maybe see the progression of that same issue in following into other lives, and maybe even still in the person's current life. So that's the first section, which is the past life and between lives review. And then we kind of call in the higher self. Some people want to call it something else, maybe a spirit guide or an angel, a deity, whoever they're working with, Christ's energy, however you term that works. I believe in the idea in QHHT is that it's bringing the same source energy through, but in whatever way is most comfortable for you. So we'll call that in and do a body scan and just see if there's anything in the body, known or unknown, that is a problem, and ask for any healings of any of that at the time, which there have been some really amazing healings that can come from that. Even issues that people didn't know were issues, things that were in the process of progressing but hadn't gotten far enough to be discovered yet, can sometimes be identified and released, which is amazing. Then we ask for kind of a review of the whole past lives. Why did we see these specific lives, and what does it mean? And get kind of a bigger, again, grander idea of the overall scope of the soul's journey, and how it's most relevant to the person in their current lifetime. So after the body scan, that's kind of the second part of the body scan, and getting a larger picture of things, doing any physical healings that might be needed and appropriate. And then the last section, the third section, is the kind of a Q&A. So the client comes to a session with a list of questions about their lives, about whatever. It can be about past lives. Often people want to know if their partners or family members have been people that they've known in past lives. You can ask anything from life purpose kind of questions, about your job, about absolutely anything that you want clarity on in your life. So we go over those questions really thoroughly before the session, so that I have a really good understanding of what exactly you want to know, so that I can continue to ask probing questions along those lines to make sure that we've exhausted every possible answer around that question for you. So we move through all of those questions and get a detailed answer of all of that. And then the session is over, and I release the energy, the source energy that was coming through for the person, and then slowly bring them back into the present consciousness, having released all past lives and all other energy, realizing that it's just information now, and that it cannot affect or impact the person going forward in their daily lives, besides just the intellectual processing and using that information. So that's the general gist of a session. Some of the amazing benefits I've already kind of touched on, some physical releasing and healing of things that have followed through from past lives, and sometimes not from past lives, but just getting healings from things going on in their current life. It sheds amazing light on the soul's purpose, where it's been and where it is now, and even where it's going. So that really helps people see themselves in a larger picture, where they really have some direction. They can draw direction from that, what things they really do need to work on, or they might continue in future lives. It helps them understand a lot of things that they're drawn to. So past lives, they might have gained skills in those lives, or had a a job that they now have as a hobby, or something that they're really drawn to, maybe a geographic area or a certain culture has always been fascinating. So it can bring up information, sort of clarity, and shed light on those types of things. And it really gives an overall purpose on where people can go from here. So I would say that's probably the biggest benefit. Of course, the Q&A section really helps people. It helps them make decisions. It helps them decide everything from, should they quit their job? Should they start work as an artist, or some dream that they've wanted to do? We can ask as many specifics about how to make that work, and even timeframes. But I will say that timeframes can be a little bit vague, especially when you're talking about source energy that sees things on a really large and, grand universal scale of time. And even probably in a place that time doesn't exist is where that information is coming from. So time can be difficult to get actual time frames on things, but sometimes people get a general gist, like in the next 6 months or in the next couple of years. It just depends. People can find answers for things if a relationship didn't work out, if there was an early death in their lives, if they've had a violent trauma in this life. They can get information about sort of why that was part of their soul's journey, ways to heal from that. They might even receive emotional healing during the session. They can maybe see how and if it relates to things in their past lives, ways that their soul can grow from different experiences in the past and current lives. So it's really just a beautiful system of helping people see this greater arc of their lives, finding perspective on where they're at right now, helping them release anything that's no longer serving them, and then just bringing a lot of answers and clarity, direction into their current lives. So hopefully that's helped you understand the process and maybe even become interested in a QHHT session. So I thank you for watching, and if you have any other specific questions, you can either write them in the comments here on the YouTube channel, or you can also go to my website, which is www.lifepathhypnosis.com, and you can fill out, there's a contact form there, and you can ask any questions in that contact form, and I'm happy to answer as best as I can. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you're doing well.